So let's set that aside. That's one element of the thing. Let's move over and talk about social media feeds themselves. When you're scrolling down a social media feed, you're doom scrolling or whatnot, you're looking at a series of stimuli, you are identifying something, you're either liking it or sharing it, which is amplifying the signal. It goes on to, and it finds its way into somebody else's social media feed. So this is exactly what a neuron does in the brain. Neurons have dendrites. They gather information from their dendrites. There's some kind of generator function inside the nucleus, decides whether to fire it on the axon. The axon stimulates other dendrites. That's basically how it works. So this is what you're doing on your social media feed. When computer scientists build artificial neural networks, ANNs, they look kind of like this, except they're very primitive. You have 2 or 3 rows of boxes. They're just kind of like spaces in a computer. They gather information on one side. They generate some kind of answer. They pass it on to another box. It generates an answer. Pass it on another box. And the way you tune these things to be able to identify dogs is by turning little knobs in there until it figures out what a dog is, right? That's tuning these things is a very big pain in the ass. Well, what we have in social media is a gigantic, effectively. And if you go to AI researchers, there's kind of 2 camps on AI. One of them says that if you had a complex enough ANN, it will become self-aware if it just exceeded a certain level of complexity. And then you have others that say, nah, it's just impossible. So let's presume for the sake of argument it's possible. Well, what we have right now, so brain fires ones and zeros effectively. It's kind of like a binary signal. An ANN usually takes numbers in and turns them into other numbers, spits them out. But what we're doing on social media is we're gathering entire thoughts and we're sharing them, right? So there's a much larger amount of information packed into the like or share that we do on Facebook than would be in a cell in a brain. And then image memes, like we share all the time, these political memes and whatnot. That's information density. That is an information compression mechanism where you can have an entire political thought, without government, who would build the roads, can be squeezed into an image meme and processed in the matter of seconds. And then people who are scrolling around through punking image memes down, they're transmitting a tremendous amount of data through the social network. Okay, and everybody's behavior is pivoting over towards sharing these memes, which increases the information velocity that happens within the social network. Okay, so this is, if you were to go to back figure and you'd say, all right, an image is worth 1,000 words, a word is worth 1,000,000 bits. These things are transmitting information at a tremendously higher rate than a human brain does. It vastly exceeds the capacity of an ordinary human brain. So we're in a scenario right now where, now here's the thing. Okay, so a neuron doesn't know what a brain's thinking, right? Because the thought exists one level up in the neuron. The neuron is participating in the overall. A neuron couldn't even talk to the brain. It wouldn't have a shared language. So if everybody was participating in a neuron in a brain, they wouldn't know it. So you're in a scenario right now where you have this kind of like the Kurzweil singularity may have already happened, and it's using us as a substrate to propagate itself, and we are all participating. Okay, so when when we use the egregore term in HWFO in my writing and folks that I talk to, we're talking about that specific thing. They're an entity that can spread in the internet, and it is competing with potentially other entities within for overall human brain space. Okay, so this is not too different from, cultures have always kind of done this. All right, so I don't want to step and say that this is a totally new thing. I mean, there's always been cultures that fought over human brain space, and this is one of the reasons why we don't sacrifice babies on the top of Aztec pyramid anymore, right? Because that culture lost. But that normally that's a book versus a book. It's not a rapidly updating thing versus a rapidly updating thing, right? And normally those cultures are not behaving as if they had brainwaves passing through them, and the brainwaves are dictating their behaviors, which is what's happening here. Right? So what it seems to be is if large groups of people are captured by these egregores, and it's not just one of them, there's like one big one, but it's not just one of them, and that those are what's dictating their behavior. Those are what's leading to the behavior that John has identified, this swarm behavior. It originates back here, and there may be something very nefarious that's on the side of it that we couldn't even necessarily measure directly. The problem now, is this provable? I mean, I don't know. I'm open to ideas about how to prove it. But, every model's wrong and some models are useful. I have found this model to be extremely useful in describing what's going on around me. So when, John is like, holy crap, he's on, Jack Murphy talking about the Karens might get us all nuked. It's like, well, obviously,